The CFR membership at the start was approximately 1,000 people in the United States. This membership included the heads of virtually every industrial empire in America, all the American-based international bankers, and the heads of all their tax-free foundations. In essence, all those people who would provide the capital required for anyone who wished to run for Congress, the Senate, or the presidency. The first job of the CFR was to gain control of the press. This task was given to John D. Rockefeller, who set up a number of national news magazines such as Life and Time. He financed Samuel Newhouse to buy up and establish a chain of newspapers all across the country, and Eugene Meyer also, who would go on to buy up many publications such as the Washington Post, Newsweek, and the Weekly magazine. The CFR also needed to get control of radio, television, and the motion picture industry. This task was split amongst international bankers from Kuhn Loeb, Goldman Sachs, the Warburgs, and the Lehmans. In 1925, this year's Jewish Encyclopedia states of the existence of Ashkenazi Jews who represent approximately 90% of the so-called world Jewry, with a startling admission that the so-called enemy of the Jews, Esau, also known as Edom, see Genesis 36:1, now actually represents the Jewish race, when on page 42 of volume 5 it is stated Edom is in modern Jewry. So what they're basically saying is that these Ashkenazi Jews, who represent 90% of the so-called Jewish population, are actually Gentiles, or Goyim themselves. In 1926, N.M. Rothschild and Sons refinanced the Underground Electric Railway Companies of London, Ltd., which has a controlling interest in the entire London Underground transport system. Maurice de Rothschild has a son, Edmund de Rothschild. In 1929, the Rothschilds crashed the United States economy by contracting the money supply. In 1930, the first Rothschild World Bank, the Bank for International Settlements, BIS, is established in Basel, Switzerland. The same place is where 33 years earlier, the first ever World Zionist Congress was held. In 1933, on January 30th, Adolf Hitler becomes Chancellor of Germany. He drives Jews, many of which were communists, out of governmental positions within Germany. As a result of this, in July, the Jews hold a world conference in Amsterdam, during which they demand that Hitler reinstate every Jew back to his former position. Hitler refuses, and as a result of this, Samuel Untermyer, the Ashkenazi Jew who blackmailed President Wilson and is now the head of the American delegation and the president of the whole conference, returns to the United States and makes a speech on radio, which was transcribed from the New York Times, Monday, August 7, 1933. In the speech, he made the following statements. "The Jews are the aristocrats of the world. Our campaign is the economic boycott against all German goods, shipping, and services. What we are proposing is to prosecute a purely defensive economic boycott that will undermine the Hitler regime and bring the German people to their senses by destroying their export trade on which their very existence depends. Each of you, Jew and Gentile alike, must refuse to deal with any merchant or shopkeeper who sells any German-made goods or who patronizes German ships or shipping." As two-thirds of Germany's food supply had to be imported and could only be imported with the proceeds of what they exported, if Germany could not export, two-thirds of Germany's population would have starved, as there would be not enough food for more than one-third of the population. As a result of this boycott, Jews throughout America would protest outside and damage any stores in which they found any products with "Made in Germany" printed on them, causing stores to have dumped these products or risk bankruptcy. Once the effects of this boycott began to be felt in Germany, the Germans, who had demonstrated no violence towards the Jews up to this point, simply began boycotting Jewish stores in the same way the Jews had done to stores selling German products in America. Rothschilds financed IBM supply machines to the Nazis, which produced punch cards to help organize and manage the initial identification, social expulsion of Jews, the confiscation of their property, and their exportation or deaths, extermination. On November 16th, President Roosevelt recognizes the Zionist regime of Stalin in Russia without consultation with Congress, even as 8,000 Ukrainians marched in protest in New York. Also this year, President Roosevelt, born of a Jewish mother, therefore satisfying Ashkenazi rules of being Jewish, orders the all-seeing eye to be placed upon all new dollar bills, along with the motto Novus Ordo Seclorum. This is Italian for New Order of the Ages. Matter of fact, that Latin saying on the top, annuit coeptus, that refers to our enterprise or our affair has become a success. In 1934, Swiss banking secrecy laws are reformed, and it becomes an offense resulting in imprisonment for any bank employee to violate bank secrecy. This is all in preparation for the Rothschild-engineered Second World War, in which, as usual, they will fund both sides. Edmund de Rothschild dies. In 1936, with regard to the increase in anti-Semitism in Germany, Samuel Landman, at the time secretary to the World Zionist Organization, in his 1936 book, Great Britain, the Jews and Palestine States, the following of the United States entry into World War I. The fact that it was Jewish help that brought USA into the war on the side of the Allies has rankled ever since in German, especially Nazi minds, and has contributed in no small measure to the prominence which anti-Semitism occupies in the Nazi program. On the 7th of November 1938, a Jew named Herschel Greenspan assassinated Ernst von Rath, a minor official at the German embassy in Paris. As a result of this, German hostility towards Jews in Germany started to turn violent. The Rothschilds' Austrian banking house in Vienna, SM von Rothschild and Sohn, closes following the Nazi occupation of Austria. In 1939, IG Farben, the leading producer of chemicals in the world and largest German producer of steel, dramatically increases its production. This increased production is almost exclusively used to arm Germany for the Second World War. This company was controlled by the Rothschilds and would go on to use Jews and other disaffected peoples as slave labor in the concentration camps. IG Farben also created the lethal Zyklon B gas that was supposedly used to exterminate the Jews and other unwanted people in Germany. However, it is a fact that Zyklon B was actually used to disinfect the clothing that the people had worn in these concentration camps to get rid of the disease which causes typhoid and other abnormalities and diseases. On 1 September 1939, the Second World War starts when Germany invades Poland. This was because the German leadership were a Christian leadership who understand that Soviet Russia was led by Rothschild-funded communists, and they feared that as the Soviet Union grew in strength, these Jewish communists would invade and wipe all the Christians off the map. In 1940, Hans-Jürgen Kohler writes a book, Inside the Gestapo, who goes into detail explaining that Adolf Hitler's grandmother served in the House of Rothschilds and became pregnant.